big one. This is the controlled global meltdown. And we have had an endless list of experts on, Nobel Prize winners, you name it, to tell you that. We have read you the documents on air. We have covered secret meetings. We have gone to great lengths and risked our lives and imprisonment to bring you this information. Now, 2 weeks ago, I told you that when the bailout went through, and then it went through a week ago under threats of martial law in the Congress, unprecedented, on record, that when it went through, you would see a massive controlled plunge. The plunge protection team, or the President's Committee on Markets, could have propped the stock market up. They have the unlimited capital to do it. It devalues the currency, and they are devaluing. They could have propped it up. They have not been propping the market up. They are allowing it to fall. It is rigged. It is controlled. It runs according to different rules than the rest of the planet. The stock market had laws passed in Congress in the 70s where narcotics money internationally can be invested in it, whereas if a citizen does that, you go away for life. Richard Grasso, the former head of the New York Stock Exchange, when he was currently the head in '99, did a teleconference, a TV news conference with the head of the Communist FARC guerrillas in Colombia, inviting him to invest his hundreds of billions a year in cocaine profits in the stock market, and threatened him with U.S. military invasion if he didn't. And 2 years later, a war started down there, and hundreds of U.S. troops and mercenaries have died in the fighting. That's how incredibly corrupt all of this is. CIA aircraft routinely crash or are picked up by local police and ordered to stand down, filled with cocaine, heroin, you name it. Just happened again a few months ago. 3.3 tons of pure cocaine coming directly from the source, CIA aircraft, normally used for transporting kidnapped renditions out of the United States, being flown to other nations for torture. They have set up a police state under the cover of anti-terrorism, which they staged. They have built a huge prison complex owned by the drug cartels, the big banks, which are one and the same, and the defense contractors. They have used that black market to corrupt the police. The Pentagon has carried out thousands of public and secret martial law takeover drills from Maryland to Texas, from California to New York, from Florida to St. Louis, Missouri. Now, if you ever went to any of those drills, as I have been to many and interviewed countless others that have covered it and seen countless videos that have been covered, you will witness the Marines and the Army admitting this is for the United States. They practice taking over city halls. They practice taking over courthouses. They practice taking over state capitals and governor's mansions. We came on air in 1997. Been on air before that for 2 years, but I figured it out by 1997. Went to the events, interviewed police chiefs they tried to bribe, interviewed police chiefs about foreign troops and secret operations, interviewed emergency managers, like former Army intelligence officer Thomas Sanchez, who they came to and admitted and tried to buy off in Kingsville. And we came on air and we said, look, the elite is setting up martial law in America, creeping death. And they plan to stage terror attacks for the first phase to publicly unveil it. And these urban warfare drills are to condition you to accept it. Next, they'll be at sporting events, college, high school, National Football League games. They will be at all these high-profile events. They will be running security at NASCAR, at the Kentucky Derby, and that all happened because we had government documents and inside sources. This is a covert operation, just like the Pentagon would take over a third world country over a few years. But America is a big elephant to eat, so it took them a few decades. Now, 3 weeks ago, the Army Times reported and put it in the public's face in a lengthy article that microwave guns, non-lethal weapons were being prepared, that the 3rd Brigade of the 1st Army was coming into the U.S., that other brigades were going to be activated. If you read the article carefully, it mentioned all the other brigades and all the other NORTHCOM forces that are already here that we told you about in the late 90s by name and even posted the documents. All those very brigades, all those very units operating under the cover of bomb disposal, but we got secret documents. How did we get them? The FBI screwed up at a highway checkpoint and gave us the internal documents instead of the press release. They were not pleased by that, and it talked about 77 counties with troops in every city and every town in not police uniforms, but just uniforms that don't say the local department. They just say police on them, already aiding them in SWAT team raids, in gun confiscation, in drug raids. Then I told you that I learned that I had family by 2001 who'd always been overseas in the Army, now in Texas, helping set up fusion centers with the military and local police. And then Congress was told last week, you pass this or we're going to declare martial law. And what was in the financial bailout plan? It was financial martial law, unlimited immunity from crime and insider trading, and no oversight for Henry Paulson, the former head of Goldman Sachs. Then he appointed his vice president, his confidant, the person that accompanies him everywhere, this Kashkari, who looks like the villain from the movie The Mummy. He will hand out the $5 trillion. And yes, now they're finally reading the fine print. Bloomberg was right, $5 trillion. And guess who he's going to hand it out to? They have announced in CNBC today that the majority of it will be handed out to Goldman Sachs. You have the former head of Goldman Sachs 2 years ago, who still owns hundreds of millions of stock in it. You have his vice president, who just left Goldman Sachs, directly paying money into their own bank accounts. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no end to the open crime. This is a bank robbery going on in front of everyone, and it's only going to get worse. I now take you to CNBC today. Remember, I said they will have their bailout. I told you they were threatening martial law 2 weeks ago in Congress. We had sources. Then it came out on the floor on C-SPAN. We had the respected congressman who happens to be a former federal bank regulator with a Harvard master's in business. And they were threatened with martial law, but under the rules of House couldn't say who told them. That means committee chairman. Now, finally, Democracy Now! And Naomi Wolf and all these, and Alternet and a bunch of other huge news sites are admitting we're under martial law. Finally, people are writing articles that are absolutely accurate and are telling the truth, and the public is finally starting to get it. And what is martial law? It's not troops marching up and down every street. It's the Congress being told they have no authority, and they'll do what they're told. It's governors being told that. And then if there's riots and people trying to resist, it's the public being mowed down. That's what it is. And now, exactly what we told you, they would then expand the bailout to say, okay, it's not working, we need to bail out the bailout, and that's the exact term being put out on the news, and the American people have to come together and work with the government. And we have to drop all our differences, and Barack Obama says do whatever the private banks and the big international banks, having a summit secretly, no cameras allowed this weekend. You know, they'll have a public press conference later to tell you what they want you to know. Headline, radical measures may be in the wings as the financial crisis threatens to spiral out of control. It's under total control. It's more than likely Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson will take extraordinary steps through the extensive authority granted to him under emergency rescue legislation, say analysts. Now it's emergency rescue legislation. With the legislation's main mechanism, an auction system to purchase bad mortgage-based securities still weeks away from implementation, Paulson may have to inject capital into any number of financial institutions, even non-depository ones like investment banks, insurers, and hedge funds. I don't wish to spread alarm on the line, people, but the big issue confronting the market is, I'm afraid, health and sustainability of Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs. Hugh Henry, partner and CIO of Electrica, told CNBC it's unimaginable that they can be allowed to go. I suspect that they will be nationalized at some point today or over the weekend, he added. And nationalized means they're still private, that they just get government power and then engorge themselves on all our money. So exactly what we told you. They are going to take everything and push people into rioting. Then they're going to use that as an excuse for hot martial law. All right, you understand?